For the weekly sports page with the dynamic David Coleman. Stay tuned for thrills, chills, and yes, spills. Oh yeah, and a whole lot of other great stuff. Call 855-525-5683. Tweet your questions at Dynamic Sports PA or Facebook. Drop a line on Dynamic Weekly Sports Show. Sit back, relax, and groove while Dynamic drops sports in your ear hole.
Nebraska wins the game on the final play of the contest. Checked up indeed. Are you kidding me?
Now here's Dynamic David Coleman.
Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. I am Dynamic Dave Coleman. Hey, on a Saturday morning, it is wonderful outside. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you want to talk some sports this morning. We had a lot of stuff to talk about. If this is your first time joining the show, hey, I see you, Scotty Green. What's happening? Hey, certainly we got to throw the Golden Lions a little love down there with John Graham as the band director, my cousin. Hey, what's happening? Golden Lions. Let's get it popping. Hey, call me up at 855-525-5683. If this is your first time joining the show, you know we got to do it proper. So let me just make sure you understand the format. We just don't talk sports up in here. We don't just talk X's and O's and the Jimmys and the Joes. We get into the meat of sports. We hit you where it hurts. You know, it's kind of like that blindside hit that you wasn't expecting. Hey, if you've been in football, we've all gotten them. And you know what it's like. We're going to blindside a few people this morning, but we'll talk a few things. We got a game going on, college football. As you all know, most of the time, I'm sorry, I don't talk much NFL here, but we're going to talk NFL today. But before all of that, we got to speak to everybody. I grew up in the South, and if you don't speak to people, you walk into a house and don't speak to people, you liable to get hit upside your head. So I need to speak to everybody, if you don't mind. So let me just go ahead and start off by speaking to everybody in Central Arkansas. Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. I did tell y'all, you know, we do play the best old school bumper music in the universe, and the bumper music today is going to be Curtis Mayfield. Yeah, so I tell you what, I don't own the rights to this music, but if you go out and go out to the Joynet Radio app, go out to the website, joynetradio.com, you'll be able to hear a little bit of this bumper music I'm playing this morning while I'm speaking to y'all. You know, I'm playing Curtis Mayfield. All right? Go out to YouTube and just press play and enter Curtis Mayfield. So while I'm talking to y'all, I want to say, hey, good morning and welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. I want to speak to everybody that's from Little Rock, you know, East End, the West End, the South End, North Little Rock. I want to certainly speak to the people in the surrounding areas as well. Come on, Curtis, do that stuff, man. Right now in the background, we're jamming little Curtis Mayfield. Let's call it Move On Up. All right. While I'm speaking to y'all, don't forget about Lone Oak, Pine Bluff down there with the Golden Lions. Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Let's see what else we got. Sherwood, North Little Rock, Conway, Jacksonville, Wrightsville, Sweet Home. all y'all folks, good morning and welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Certainly want to talk to my folks down in New Orleans. Good morning. Let's say bon temps roulette. Let the good times roll. Good morning, New Orleans. Was talking about y'all last night, all that good old food y'all got down there. Making a black man hungry, man, this morning, man. Welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Everybody down in the Redneck Riviera, you know, Orange Beach, all down in that area, good morning. Welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. My good friend, Dr. Doreen Lowry, up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Larry Ridley, my homeboy, where we all started this thing together in Nashville, Tennessee. Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Appreciate you joining the show. My daughter, Sierra Coleman in Chicago, Illinois. Good morning, welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. All my homeboys in Memphis. Good morning, welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Want to shout out to my people in Nashville. You know, I went to Nashville to get rich and famous. You know, I got a little famous, but I didn't get rich. But hey, I love it just the same. Good morning, my folks in Nashville, Tennessee. Getting ready for the Big John Mayer Classic with the Tennessee State Tigers, where my baby girl is an alumni. Y'all welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Yeah. Want to shout out to Murfreesboro, Tennessee as well. Middle Tennessee, what's happening? Welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Now let's go down southwest and holler at my folks in Dallas, San Antonio, my favorite Texas city, and Houston. Good morning, Kenneth Muntz, my boy. Welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Going out west and going up and down the coast. Let's start in, how about Seattle, Washington, and Lisa Madden. Good morning. Welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. How about Rodessa and Blackberry in San Francisco? Welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Dr. Rosie Milligan and the crew with Black Riders on Tour in Los Angeles. Welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. And can't forget about my boy, my son, my pride and joy, Akili Kari Coleman in Hawaii, Makakilo to be precise. Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Now that we got all the propers out of the way, we got some sports to talk about. Let me tell you what's on the agenda this morning. We'll certainly pick the Miami and Florida game. We're going to do that early. I'll give you some information on that game. Or we may do that late. I don't know. We're going to pick that game this morning. So you stick and stay for that. We're also going to talk about the NFL and the NBA. I asked the question, who has more courage? Which players? NBA or NFL players? Which one have more courage? I'm also going to talk about the Dolphins head coach who proves he is a POS. Okay? And I'm not talking about a point of sale with his actions. And we'll make that discussion as well. So that's what's on the agenda among many, many other things. It's called the Weekly Sports Magazine. I'm Dynamic Dave. We'll be back in a moment on JoyNetRadio.com.
Football Tigers are back. Head football coach Kent Left to lead the Tigers into a promising 2019 football season. Catch all of the great home game action. Join the Tigers for home games against West Memphis, Rogers Heritage, North Little Rock, Bryant, Cabot, and Fort Smith Southside. Former Tiger player David W. Coleman brings you all of the exciting play-by-play analysis. Hell to the old gold, hell to the black. The Little Rock Central High Football Tigers are back right here on JoyNetRadio.com. Business owners, spread the word about your goods and services during the Little Rock Central Tigers 2019 football season. This is a great opportunity to inform the largest alumni base in the state of Arkansas about your great products. We'll professionally produce your ads or submit your own. You must act quick as a cat because spots are limited. Contact David W. Coleman at 615-554-0568 to support the Tigers. Proceeds to benefit the Little Rock Central High Tigers Athletic Fund.
All right, welcome back to the show. It's the Weekly Sports Magazine. I'm Dynamic Dave. Playing all in the background, we're jamming a little Curtis Mayfield. He's our guest artist today. If you listen to the show, we know we play the best old school music every Saturday morning. Good morning, Jackie. I'm going to prove you wrong here in just a moment. Hey, right now, if you hadn't tagged anyone about the show, go ahead and tag someone and wake them up. Hey, we about to get popping up in here. We are the best sports show in the state of Arkansas. All right? I've listened to the others. We are the best one. All right? So go ahead and tag someone and get them online. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on here in the state of Arkansas and, of course, around the world. The big question is, who has more courage, the NFL or the NBA, as it relates to players? I'm going to tell you right now, it's the NBA. I'm going to prove it to you here in just a moment as well, okay? We're also going to take a look at the Florida-Miami football game. College football is back. I am going to be picking college football games all year long against the spread, and we're going to set up a package and I'm going to tell you, if you beat me in this package, and I'm hoping I'm going to go out to various business owners. And this package is going to build over the week, over the year. And if you beat me, you're going to get the whole package. So I'm working on that right now, okay? So I'm telling you, starting next week, I'm gonna make a promo about it. I will be picking all college football games. And at the end of the day, if you don't win anything else, you'll win a Coleman's Dynamic gift pack that has all my products in it, okay? So I'll keep you posted on that coming up here in a little bit. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. We're about to talk a little bit about what's going on. And I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and look at some of the things that are happening in sports today. Of course, the big game today is Florida and Miami. I think the spread, and I do pick against the spread, so it's more than just who's going to win. So if you're going to enter into the contest, then it's got to be more than just the spread. All right, I'm telling you. So just get it together. By the way, Florida is a 7-point favorite in this particular game. And there's a lot to talk about. There are other games going on today as well. Arizona at Hawaii. Now, let me just say this. All right. Okay. I'll define courage in just a moment. Y'all don't be rushing my show. Okay. I'm getting there. Arizona and Hawaii. You know what? It really doesn't matter who wins that game. If you've ever been to Hawaii, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Okay? I'm just saying. So, whoever wins that game, and by the way, I've been in that stadium. It's a beautiful stadium, but I mean, it pales to comparison to some of the other things that's going on in Hawaii. Hey, Winnie, how you doing? Welcome to the Weekly Sports Magazine. Also, Wagner at Connecticut. UCLA at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, believe it or not, that's Thursday. That's a Thursday night game. And Cincinnati is at home and a 3-point favorite. Can you believe that? UCLA is a 3-point dog on the road against Cincinnati. Oh, man, that's just crazy, dude. And then, of course, next weekend, a lot of games start off on Thursday, and then Saturday we've got a whole rick of games. So we'll be picking next Saturday games, and, of course, if you beat me, I'm going to give you something if you beat me every Saturday, okay? And I'm working on a big package later on in the year, but we'll talk about that. All right. So A lot of things to talk about today. I want to start off by, and of course, over the last couple of weeks, a lot of the shows, and certainly this one as well, has been, I guess I could say, a lot of the shows have had Jay-Z and the NFL front and center. So, I've been listening to, I don't know if you all follow Ramona Shelburne. She is an NBA reporter and works for ESPN and has done a wonderful job in recapping a 30 for 30 series about Daniel Sterling. Now, Daniel Sterling was the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, and I found it interesting now that we're getting more information about Daniel Sterling and what happened. It made me and then what's currently happening today in the NFL. It made me ask the question: which league players have more courage? Do NBA players have more courage than NFL players? Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, based on the evidence that I've read, based on what I've seen, and when I recap what the evidence, you're going to agree that the NBA players have far more courage than the NFL players. And someone asked, well, what do you mean about courage? I'm not talking about what goes on the field or on the court. I'm talking about what goes on in everyday life. Who's willing to stand up? Who has stood up? Who made a statement that many of you all don't even realize? And I'm going to be honest, until I saw this 30 for 30 piece, there were a lot of stuff I didn't know NBA players did during that situation. I'm going to recap that this morning because we have to take a look at what players who believe, maybe that's part of the reason the NBA is so popular. Maybe that's why. Hey, Dwight, how's it going, man? And appreciate the comments. Maybe that's why Sumlin will not lose to the Warriors. Who are you talking about, Scotty? Will you stop trolling me, man? So let me just say this. You all, let me start with what's going on in Miami. And I did a little research. I like doing the research because I like to look at a few things. So as you all know, let me start with the head football coach, Brian Flores, for the Miami Dolphins. Now, I will tell you that no one has championed the rights of head football coaches, black football coaches, more than myself. As a matter of fact, I am a Raiders fan. It was the Oakland Raiders who hired Art Shell. Okay? It was the Oakland Raiders who hired Art Shell. So that gave me a very huge sense of pride that Al Davis would dare to hire a black man when other NFL franchises refused to do so. I have championing the rights of NFL black GMs, which there are very few and have been very few over the years. So it disturbs me when a black football coach, one of only 3 in the league now, Brian Flores, he begins to, I see you. Okay, I get you, Scotty. He trolls Kenny Stills, a player on his team. And the reasoning behind it is ridiculous. Okay? So let me tell you what's going on. Let me just recap what has been going on. So Kenny Stills was chosen as the NFL Miami Dolphin Man of the Year last season. Typically what Man of the Year what Man of the Year does. Y'all are already jumping in on this. I love this. Spread the word. Hey, y'all wake up somebody. Let's talk about this. This is some real stuff here today. All right? As if it isn't every day. So Kenny Stills was chosen as Man of the Year. What that means is that the Man of the Year is the one that does the most on that team in that community. Okay? In other words, he goes beyond what is normal by just donating money, but really gets active in the communities. I've seen it in Tennessee. Eddie George, Steve McNair, others, all across the country. Every NFL team chooses a Man of the Year. So Kenny Steele also supports Colin Kaepernick. And Kenny Steele has also continued to kneel as it relates to Colin Kaepernick. So it came to light that the owner, Stephen Ross, of the Miami Dolphins, was having a fundraiser for Donald Trump. Now, this is not to make this a political argument, but the fact of the matter is, it has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Donald Trump is a racist. I'm not going to argue that point because prima facie evidence shows us that. All right? So Kenny Stills dared to ask the question of his owner, because Miami Dolphins have also put together programs, as many teams do, in the community. The one in Miami is called RISE. It is a program designed to uplift, underprivileged children in the Miami area. Has gotten rave reviews. So Kenny Steele, because, you can't have it both ways. And I think Kenny Steele, he dared to ask his owner, hey man, how is it that you can have a fundraiser for Donald Trump and also claim that you want to better the lives of poor and innocent children? Kenny Stills dared to ask that question. All right? And many people attack Kenny Stills as if he didn't have the right to ask that question. So he and the owner had a face-to-face meeting, and because many people said, well, Kenny Stills should have brought it up in the public. Well, why not? His owner publicly supported Donald Trump. Why couldn't Kenny Stills say, hey, in public, say, hey, why are you doing such a thing? You're a hypocrite. So they had a face-to-face meeting. And after the meeting, although we don't know what transpired in the meeting, but Kenny Stills, after the meeting, said, hey, we have to agree to disagree. So that means that they did not come to a meeting of the minds as it relates to why the owner of the Miami Dolphins is having a fundraiser at Martha's Vineyard for a racist president. Okay? In the meantime, all of this stuff was breaking with Jay-Z and the NFL. And we know now that what was first reported about Jay-Z was going to become a majority owner in an NFL team, that was a lie. We know that now, okay? There's been also other information coming out that this was nothing more than a money grab on the part of Jay-Z. I don't care whether you agree with it or not. I'm just recapping the story. Personally, I believe it's a money grab. The reason being is because the NFL, what Jay-Z is trying to get done in the NFL has been doing for decades. The NFL has been donating money into black communities and supporting black programs, school programs, lunch programs for decades. That's what they do through the United Way. So Jay-Z joining the NFL is not going to help that issue one iota because they've already been doing it. You know how I know? Because I covered the NFL in Tennessee for 15 years. Okay? So the argument that Jay-Z was going to make some huge change by joining the NFL is not going to happen, folks. Secondly, if you go back and trace the ownership of the NFL teams, the 32 teams, I would argue that maybe 3 or 4 have been sold outside of the family that originally established them. Okay? Those teams don't get sold. The majority ownership, yeah, they'll invite minorities, but minority ownership, but the majority of those teams don't change hands. Those are cash cows. Let me just say the NFL earns about $9.8 billion a year. They're just not going to let anybody into that club. Jay-Z was never going to get into that club. Furthermore, the NFL is also, remember the domestic violence situations that was going on in the NFL. The NFL invited all the advocates against domestic violence to New York to come up with ways to stop domestic violence with players. Can you point to one thing that came out of that particular meeting with all of those domestic violence advocates? I can't. I'm being honest. Can you? So the NFL typically pays lip service because of public relations. But at the end of the day, they really do very little. With that being said, Kenny Stills for the Miami Dolphins decided that he was going to defend Colin Kaepernick and go after Jay-Z. So last week, the head football coach of the Miami Dolphins, Brian Flores, decided to play Jay-Z tracks during practice. Let me say that again. The head football coach decided during practice to play Jay-Z tracks during practice. Now, in the aftermath, Brian Flores is a black man. Did he have a massa moment? I came up with this phrase this morning, a massa moment. You know, a lot of people say when black people, support white agenda or white supremacy, they cooning. I think black people oftentimes have massa moments where for a moment they fall off and then they say, oh, I made a mistake. So Brian Flores had a massa moment. He thought it was cute to troll Kenny Stills in practice. Let me read what he said, because he's taking a lot of heat for this, and he should. Yeah, I figured I'd get that question. So after the playlist was done, by the way, he played 8 consecutive songs. What you guys don't know is, I walked up to Kenny Stills in front of the entire group and said, this is a challenge to you to get open, catch the football, make plays for the team, regardless of what's going on outside of this building. He added, I would say, and I said to him, he hasn't performed up to the level over the course of training camp, and as I've seen. So that was the challenge, to get open, catch the football, and make plays for this team, regardless of what's going on outside this building. Okay? Flores told reporters Thursday, the next day, because there was a lot of attention paid to this than I ever would have imagined. Now, this is a dumbass that doesn't understand what's going on. Let me read that again. The next day, because there was so much more attention paid to this than I would have ever imagined. So let me just stop right there for a moment. The one thing that has been plaguing the NFL for the last 3 years is the issue of police brutality and Colin Kaepernick. And here is a black football coach, the head coach, who said, this was more than I would have ever imagined. Brother, you having a massive moment. Let me continue. He goes on to say, I got up in front of the team and told them that I support Kenny. I support Kenny. I support the players' protest. I mean, quite honestly, they're bringing attention to my story. So let's talk about that. I am a son of immigrants. I'm black. I grew up poor. I grew up in New York during the stop and frisk era. So I've been stopped because I fit the description before. So everything that these guys protest, I lived it. I experienced it. So yeah, I applaud these guys who protest, whether it's Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, or Kenny. I applaud these guys. I told Kenny that in a meeting in front of the entire team. So that's where I stand on this thing, and I think it got way more press than it needed to. I'm trying to challenge my players. I'm going to do all that I can see fit. And look, what these guys protest about is important. I've lived it. I've experienced it. I don't know how many people have it, but I've lived it. So I understand why guys protest. And that's important. He also added, but you know what else is important to me? There's 89 guys in the locker room who are counting on Kenny to get open and catch the football and to perform for this team. That's important to me. Everybody's got a problem with that. If anybody's got a problem with that, then we just got a problem. We're gonna agree to disagree. And I feel like that's important. You get that, right? He's saying that he played the Jay-Z 8 playlist to motivate Kenny Stills to get open. Huh? That's what he said. That's what he said. How the hell is a song when something as national going on is going to motivate Kenny Stills to get open? Brother, this is not about football. Football is a side issue here, brother. The fact of the matter is that Kenny Stills, Eric Reed, Colin Kaepernick, and the few NFL players who have courage are standing up and standing in the gap for black people who are being murdered in the streets by white police officers. And you admitted, you said you lived it. But you felt like it was okay to troll the brother who dares to put his career on the line to speak out against injustice. You are having a master moment. Just because you live, so what you're saying now is because I'm the head football coach, and I'm only one of 3, then I gotta have look, let me ask you something. Mike Tomlin didn't play Jay-Z music. Come on, man. How the hell are you gonna tell me that's gonna motivate someone? You a damn fool. You did that because you were sucking up to your owner. You were sucking up to the NFL. And I guarantee you, if any of those white men have any decency, someone should have called your ass and said, hey man, what you did was wrong. And that's why you had to come out the next day and try to make up this sorry ass excuse. You lived it. Well, if you lived it, you should have been trolling that brother. There's plenty of ways that you can get someone motivated to do their job on the field. You took a national issue and what about the other guys that was on that team? What about the other black people that were on that team? What about the white racists? Because I guarantee you there are some that are on their team. I'm going to promise you, bro, because see, you are not lone. And what I mean by that, black coaches ain't lone. And I guarantee you, there are going to be some brothers that you're going to need to depend on, and they're going to remember how you did Kenny Steele. There's going to be some tough moments that you're going to need to depend on some of those brothers, and they're going to remember how you did Kenny Steele because you were doing nothing but sucking up to your owner. What was going on between Kenny Stills and Stephen Ross was none of your damn business. They met like men. They talked it out. They didn't agree because you can't agree with racism. There's nothing to agree with racism. And when you use it, well, we just gonna agree to disagree. That is the dumbest phrase in the English language. Because some things you can't agree to disagree. You're either racist or you not. The NFL is either racist or you're not. You tell me how many black GMs are in the NFL right now. Can anyone tell me? I can. There's only one. And the irony is that the GM that hired Brian Flores, his name is Chris Greer, and he's a GM of Miami. Did you clear that with the GM? Did you clear that with the brother that's over you? How does that make him look? Brian Flores, you are a piece of crap. And then you're going to try to come up with that dumbass coach speak at the end. Well, you know, there's 89 guys in the locker room who are counting on Kenny. No, it isn't. Because last I checked, the NFL roster is only 53. And Kenny is counting on them. Kenny is counting on his coach to have his back. But it's clear you don't, bro. You had a massive moment. And I'm ashamed that a man that I've touted that, look, I don't know Brian Flores personally, but I know him as a black football coach in the NFL. And I know how hard it is for black people to get into the ranks of the NFL other than just a player. There's only one black GM in the NFL today. There are only 3 black coaches in the NFL today. A black coach that only got 1 year last year for the Arizona Cardinals. He had only been on the job 1 year. They fired him. Didn't give the brother a chance. And you, Brian Flores, has the unmitigated gall to disrespect Kenny Stills because Kenny Stills dared to stand up when you refuse, when you are continually bending over, brother. This is ridiculous. Wow. It's just amazing to me. I don't care where you stand on the Jay-Z issue. The bottom line is this is not a Jay-Z issue. You know what? This is not a Colin Kaepernick issue. This is really a police brutality issue. And Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, and Kenny Stills decided to lay their careers on the line and say, hey, this is wrong. And we're running around playing a game and making millions of dollars as if the world is not burning down around us. And a black football coach decides that he wants to troll a black player who's standing up for injustice. And that same black football coach says he lived it, said he was stopped and frisked. That's what Brian Flores says. But then you can't understand where Kenny Stills. No, it's not about we're agreeing to disagree, Coach Flores. What you should have went to Kenny and said, hey, I apologize. The reason that you're coming out now in the media is because you've been taking incoming flack. That's what's going on. And because you think you're a head football coach, you can be the start and the end of the conversation. Well, I'm the coach, and this is what I did, and I did it for the players. That's a bunch of crap, bro. This is a national issue, and you're going to just try to pass it off as some motivating tool for a practice? Are you serious? Do you think black people are just so minor that you're going to use something as major as this as a motivating team tool for one player? So you're only concerned about motivating one player? What about the other 88 players that you claim that are counting on Kenny? What did you use to motivate them? What songs did you play, Brian Flores, to motivate those other 89 players? You're a damn lie. Police brutality is real. And I don't care how many times, that old saying, if you say a lie enough, if you tell a lie enough, people will believe it. And the lie is that police brutality does not happen. You see, I grew up in a time when we didn't have video cameras. I grew up in a time when your word was that police harassed me and we didn't have proof. But today we have proof. We We have prima facie evidence that police is brutally brutalizing black people in black communities. We have proof. And they want to lie to us and tell us that it's not happening. Before the show this morning, I watched a video of a black man who was harassed by police in his own house when the burglar alarms went off. This brother was in his house and the burglar alarms went off. He was asleep. Get this. Now, I know Brian Flores is not listening to me right now, but those of you who don't understand where I'm coming from today, just listen to this, because this happens every day in America to black people somewhere on the streets. Every day. We just don't see video. You know, we said when we were kids growing up how police treated us. No one believed us. No one believed that police brutality was happening in the black communities. And then Rodney King happened. And then they told us that, oh, Rodney King, that what you saw in that video, no, your eyes lying to you, Brian Flores. I'm just, you know, this brother was in his house. The burglar alarms go off. He was asleep. He wakes up, he has a weapon. The police have pushed his door open and they're standing in the door drawing down on him. They say, put your weapon down. He puts his weapon down. He's in his drawers, people. He's in his underwear, people. And he's telling them, I know the alarms are going off. I live here. I don't know why they went off. They're going off. He's in his drawers. And they pull him out of the house in his drawers. And then they try to justify why. Oh, when an alarm goes off, as long as it does, then it's our responsibility to respond. And he's telling him that I live here. If you listened to Black Focus yesterday, I told you the story about the author in Miami, where the police showed up on his lawn and they had the SWAT team. Someone had said that he had murdered his wife and his wife was sitting there in bed with him. You see, Brian Flores, head football coach of the Miami Dolphins, you don't read the news, brother. You having a Massa moment. You don't understand what's happening here and what Kenny Stills has the courage to do. There was a reason why you all named him the Miami Dolphins Man of the Year. Hello, Kenny Stills, you know, the Miami Dolphins Man of the Year, that award that every 32 NFL football players get. There's a reason. But you trolled that young brother. And your excuse saying you tried to motivate him, and then it suggested you didn't think it would get as big as it's getting. You kind of like blaming the media. You did something stupid, and you thought it was going to be in-house, and you thought that because you did it in-house that it wouldn't get out. The fact that it got out, and Kenny Stills didn't get it out, so that says that some other player or players spread the word to the media that this happened. Hello? So that means that there were other black players that were offended by what you did to a current teammate. You weren't trying to motivate Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills was already doing his job, even with all the noise that was going on. You didn't need to motivate Kenny Stills. You were trying to make a point to your massa that, hey, I'm on the team, Massa Ross. Let me show you what I can do. And now you look like a damn fool. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. We're going to go out and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into some other stuff, because I'm going to show you today how I'm telling you that the NBA players have far more courage than the NFL. I had to set this up. I had to show you. I needed to bring some prima facie evidence to the forefront. I'm going to show you more when we return. You're listening to the weekly sports magazine. I'm Dynamic Dave on JournetRadio.com.
Hell to the old gold, hell to the black. The Little Rock Central High football Tigers are back. Head football coach Kent Left to lead the Tigers into a promising 2019 football season. Catch all of the great home game action. Join the Tigers for home games against West Memphis, Rogers Heritage, North Little Rock, Bryant, Cabot, and Fort Smith Southside. Former Tiger player David W. Coleman brings you all of the exciting play-by-play analysis. Hell to the old gold, hell to the black. The Little Rock Central High football Tigers are back right here on JournetRadio.com. Business owners, spread the word about your goods and services during the Little Rock Central Tigers 2019 football season. This is a great opportunity to inform the largest alumni base in the state of Arkansas about your great products. We'll professionally produce your ads or submit your own. You must act quick as a cat because spots are limited. Contact David W. Coleman at 615-554-0568 to support the Tigers. Proceeds to benefit the Little Rock Central High Tigers Athletic Fund.
Sucky now. That's Curtis Mayfield in the background. Diamond in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with a gangster lean. Woo woo. Yeah, baby. I'm Dynamic Dave. You're listening to the weekly sports magazine. We're playing the best old school bumper music in the universe every Saturday morning as we tackle tough issues as it relates to sports. If you'd like to join in on the conversation, 855-525-5683 is the number, or go out to the JournetRadio.com website, download that app, and carry me everywhere you go. Yeah. Man, that's some good stuff right there. Let me give you a musical recommendation. Go out to YouTube, plug in Curtis Mayfield, and there is a 50-song playlist, and just click play. Especially you young brothers. Y'all need to, it would do you good to go back and listen to some of this old school music and understand the power of music. Because you all don't. You know, see, music in our community was created to send a message. Did you know that in Africa, that when the whites invaded Africa, that they would not allow the Africans to play drums? Did you know when they stole the Africans and brought them to America and enslaved them, they would not allow Africans to play, your ancestors, to play drums? Because drums was a means of communication. Drums was a means of keeping that family, that sense of purpose together. That's what music came from. That's what music was really all about. So when you listen to today's music by some of these rappers, the bitches and the hoes and the Molly and all this other stuff, that's not what music should be. So when I talk about Jay-Z and when I talk about some of these rappers, I like to remind you that much of the poison that is in our community is because of people like Jay-Z. So when you want to put him on heroic status, you might need to check your history. Come on, Curtis. Come on. Do this. Man, I'm sorry. I just had a moment there. Woo. All right. By the way, if you have not went out and read the piece, the 1619 piece, it's over 100 pages. It's called the 1619 Project. It examines the legacy of slavery in America. If your children and you are not reading this, then you don't understand. You really, 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 really don't understand what I do. Why I get emotional sometimes. Man, it's hard trying to save black people, man. It's hard. I've had multiple friends that walk away and say, I've had enough of y'all. I'ma do me. We need those types of people in the movement. Hello. I was talking about Kenny Stills. And I appreciate that brother. I'm upset with Brian Flores, the head football coach who trolled that brother. The head black football coach who trolled that brother. There was no need for that. None whatsoever. So I asked the question because, see, I wanted to set up the show today because I asked the question, which players have more courage? Which players have more courage? And I wanted to bring in the NFL first because, see, right now, I'm gonna throw it out there that the NFL players as a whole have no courage. You know, courage is defined by the ability to do something that frightens you. Strength in the face of grief. That's the basic definition of courage. Here's another one. Courage permits one to face extreme dangers and difficulties without fear. To take or lose courage. Bravery implies true courage, with daring and an intrepid boldness. Bravery in battle. Valor implies heroic courage. Valor in fighting for the right. I would argue that Colin Kaepernick has courage because, see, when you're willing to lose all for someone else, that's courage. I would argue that Eric Reed, who was blackballed out of the league until he finally got a job with the Carolina Panthers and still kept kneeling, that's courage. I would argue that Kenny Stills standing up to an owner who supports a racist president and still stands as a man when his black head football coach trolls him in practice with a fake leader's songs. That's courage. But where are all the other black NFL players? Where are all of the other black NFL players? What would happen if black NFL players stood together as a group? Well, let me tell you what was happening. Let's flip this conversation to the NBA. Now, many of y'all remember Daniel Sterling, right? Daniel Sterling was the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers. Daniel Sterling was discovered to be a racist. Y'all remember that? What did NBA players do to change this league and show true courage? Because what we've seen is right now, the NFL black players have no courage. You know why I know they have no courage? You know, their CBA is about to come up in 2020. The reason that their union is so weak, because when it comes to standing together, NFL players as a whole knuckle under every time. That's why the owners get what they want. That's not me saying it. Look at the history. They are already telling NFL players that the lockout is coming. The reason the owners feel like they can lock the players out is because the players are not going to stand fast. They're going to cut each other's throats. That's what's about to happen. They're already telling NFL players, you need to start saving your money now because the lockout is coming. That tells me right there, the NFL players have no courage. They don't have courage to themselves. They don't have courage to their unions. Because every time there's been a lockout, the NFL players have knuckled under. Hello? But y'all say, and there are one or two individuals. When you go back and look at history, all of those people who led those marches, who stood in the gap for us to cross over, they had courage. Many of the people that were crossing over on the backs of those who led had no courage. So the question this morning is, what league, what players have more courage, NFL or NBA players? Collectively, as a group. I know there are a lot of NFL players do a lot of great things in the community. That's not what I'm talking about. Because sometimes you have to stand up when nobody else will stand with you. You know, I would tell my son and my daughter is that you lead. Sometimes you have to stand on an island, but you have to, that's what true leadership is all about, is that when you are a leader, you have to be willing to stand alone sometimes. That's what Colin Kaepernick is doing. That's what Kenny Stills is doing. That's what Eric Reed is doing. And for a black head football coach, one of only 3, to troll him is an abomination. I'm angry about this because since I got into sports, I have been talking about the lack of NFL black football coaches. I have laughed and panned the Rooney Rule of how much it's a joke, that it does nothing to encourage black head football coaches. And for a black head football coach to spit in the eyes of so many black people who have put them up as players who deserve to be coaches, I am angry this morning. And you dare to spit on 3 men who have courage, more courage than you ever have? No, Brian Flores, you don't get to do that and get a pass. You don't get to do that and simply say, oh, I was trying to motivate him because he wasn't really doing what he needed to do in practice. No, you don't get to do that, Brian Flores. You are a piece of crap. Coming up next hour, I'm going to give you the NBA side of the ledger. I'm going to prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that NBA players have more guts, more courage than NFL players. And you know, and that's probably why I love the NBA more than ever. I played football. I grew up wanting to play in the league. I'd have never thunk that I would be so in love with the NBA, but I'm not necessarily in love with the game. I'm in love with these players and what they do and what they believe in and what they stand for, and they're not afraid to do so and say so. We'll be back in a moment.
Goods and services during the Little Rock Central Tigers 2019 football season. This is a great opportunity to inform the largest alumni base in the state of Arkansas about your great products. We'll professionally produce your ads or submit your own. You must act quick as a cat because spots are limited. Contact David W. Coleman at 615-554-0568 to support the Tigers. Proceeds to benefit the Little Rock Central High Tigers Athletic Fund. Hell to the old gold, hell to the black. The Little Rock Central High football Tigers season. Catch all of the great home game action. Join the Tigers for home games against West Memphis, Rogers Heritage, North Little Rock, Bryant, Cabot, and Fort Smith Southside. Former Tiger player David W. Coleman brings you all of the exciting play-by-play analysis. Hell to the old gold, hell to the black. The Little Rock Central High Football Tigers are back right here on JohnNetRadio.com. You got it. He's Little Rock's answer to your aggravation. Joy Network.
It's time for the weekly sports page with the dynamic David Coleman. Stay tuned for thrills, chills, and yes, spills. Oh yeah, and a whole lot of other great stuff. Call 855-525-5683. Tweet your questions at Dynamic Sports PA or Facebook. Drop a line on Dynamic Weekly Sports Show. Sit back, relax, and groove while Dynamic drops sports in your ear hole.
Nebraska wins the game on the final play of the contest. Oh, baby. How about that? Checked up indeed. Are you kidding me? Let's not keep it off the field tonight. Holy cow.
Now here's Dynamic David Coleman.
Police and their backers, they're all political letters.
All right, welcome back to the show. Dynamic Dave in the hizzy. The weekly sports magazine, 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. Of course, many people are responding on Facebook. Appreciate you joining me this morning. We rocking the house up in here with some Curtis Mayfield. Come on. Y'all don't know nothing about that, young people. You need to go back and check it out. Yeah. Hey, Shawana, how you doing, girlfriend? I'm Dynamic Dave. We doing our thing. Up in here, up in here. If this is the first time you're joining the weekly sports magazine, this ain't your daddy's sports show, okay? Yeah. Educated fools from uneducated schools. Hey, pimping people is the rule. Come on, baby. Come on, Curtis. Y'all need to go out and download that JoyNet Radio app. Please do so. Okay? Will y'all do that for me? Go and download that app so we can make sure that we can tell people how many people actually listen. Because we get people listening from all over the country. I got people listening right now from Los Angeles, California, Hawaii, Makakilo, Hawaii, Chicago, Illinois, New York City. Come on now. They know the deal. Yeah. Wow, I even got somebody listening from England this morning. All right. So we started the show off last hour talking a little bit about the NFL and the Kenny Steele issue. And I used that issue to set up the premise of the show today. Which players have more courage? NBA or NFL players? Now, certainly both do their share, their fair share in the community. But that's not what I mean by courage. What I mean by courage is when you're willing to stand up when nobody else would stand up. And there have been a few players on the NFL that have stood up, okay? But the majority of black players in the NFL, when this issue of Colin Kaepernick came up, where they could have supported him, even when the president called them their mothers bitches, okay? You remember the president called the NFL players sons of bitches. So that says your mama is a bitch. Now, if I walked up to the average NFL player, whomever he is, white or black, and the president, and I called and I said to him, your mom is a bitch, he'd be ready to beat my brains out. But the president of the United States said that on national television. It went all over the world, and black NFL players didn't do a damn thing but knuckle under. Except for three. Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, and Kenny Stills. That's courage. So let me take you back to 2014. You all remember 2014. Maybe some of you all don't. Maybe you all were intoxicated and It's just a blur right now. But if you remember in 2014, the story of Daniel Sterling. You remember Daniel Sterling, don't you? Daniel Sterling was the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers. And it came out that Daniel Sterling was a racist. Now, the reason this story has come more about, if you are not watching the podcast for ESPN 30 for 30 about Daniel Sterling, I'm telling you folks, it opened my eyes to things that I didn't even know. So it came out that Daniel Sterling had a black mistress, but Daniel Sterling was a racist, and his black mistress, V. Stiviano, was nothing more than a concubine. She was nothing more than his black plaything. So it was V. Stiviano who released these tapes, and Daniel Sterling was embarrassed. And people began to ask the question, well, wait a minute. What's going on here? How could this be happening? How could an NFL leader, and at that point, that's when I fell for LeBron James. You see, I tell you all the time that I'm not a LeBron James fan because of what he does on the court. I'm a LeBron James fan because what he stands for as a black man. Okay? And this is when LeBron James, to me, because this is when LeBron James stood up. Okay? This is when LeBron James, we began to really see the type of person LeBron James really was. Okay? So let me continue the story if you don't mind. Okay? Because prior to this, LeBron James and the Black Miami players had already stood up for Trayvon Martin. You see, Trayvon Martin was the black male, the 15-year-old black male walking home with a bag of Skittles and an Arizona tea who was accosted by a white racist and murdered. And that white racist was allowed to walk free and continues to walk free today. It was LeBron James and the Miami Heat who stood up and said, hey, look, this ain't working. We wearing these shirts. We wearing these hoodies to represent Trayvon Martin. But even prior to that, it was LeBron James who told Daniel Gilbert, his owner, that I'm tired of your BS and you making money off of me, and I'm taking my skills to Miami. And all of the national media genuflected and said, hey, wait a minute, this black man has too much power. LeBron James said, I don't care what y'all think about me. I'm doing this for myself, my career, my legacy, not y'all's. Not so you can make money off of me. Not so you can use me as a cash cow, use me up, and then throw me on the scrap heap. That's what LeBron James. So those were courageous points. But even more so, it was in 2014 when the Daniel Sterling issue hit. Let me just read something from you. It was the 2014 NBA playoffs. And Adam Silver was recently the head commissioner. He had only been on the job for a few months. And then it was TMZ who published those phone recordings of Daniel Sterling to his black mistress, V. Stiviano. Players were upset, as well as the nation. Let me just read a piece of this article that I have up here. While the Sterling tape was dominating the headlines, the Clippers and the Warriors were locked in a hotly contested first-round playoff series. Ahead of Game 5 at Staples Center, Warriors general manager Bob Myers called team president Rick Welts to tell him that the players were prepared to take a stand if Silver's punishment wasn't enough. Now, let me just go back here for a moment. Because this is important. It was LeBron James, when he was asked, what did you think about Daniel Sterling, that LeBron James said, hey, that man should not be an owner. Hello? He basically said what Kenny Steele's challenge to Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins. LeBron James said that Daniel Sterling should not be an owner. When Myers called his boss with the status report, he told him no uncertain terms, these guys are going to walk off the floor. Do y'all get this? In the middle of the playoffs, the black players for the Los Angeles Clippers and the Golden State Warriors were about to walk off the floor in the playoffs. Hello? Hello? Now, the question. Here's what LeBron said. There's no room for that in our game. All right? Can't have that from a player. We can't ever have that from an owner. We can't have it from a fan, and so on and so on. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, Hispanic, or whatever the case may be. We can't have that as part of our game. That's LeBron James about Daniel Sterling. Here's what Andre Iguodala said, who was the forward for the Golden State Warriors, about walking off the floor during the playoffs. I was all in. Like, shut down the whole season. Iguodala said, maybe that was too far, but as far as the game, that day, we can reschedule it. You gotta sort this thing out, because there's some deep-rooted stuff with him, and that had to be addressed. Here's Jamal Crawford, who was the guard for the Clippers at the point. If we didn't play, I think that honestly, it would have outlived us. They've been talking about that while we were not there anymore. It never happened. I'm just saying, here were the NBA players who were willing to shut down the playoffs unless Daniel Sterling was fired. Y'all get this? Who has more courage? Here's Ramona Shelburne. These guys were going to walk off the floor. He was with the team that morning and said the vibe around the team, maybe both teams, was that it doesn't go the way players wanted to go. They could walk out on the floor and then walk right off and not play the game that night. Draymond Green told NBC Sports the boycott was a full go. I remember everybody talking as if Adam Silver don't come down with a tough enough post and we don't think it's right, we're not playing tonight. Hello? So here we have a racist owner who's been exposed as a racist owner. And I'm sorry, if you're Stephen Ross and you're raising money for a racist, then bro, you're a racist. You don't get to have it both ways because you're the owner of the Miami Dolphins. But here is the owner of the Clippers who have also been identified as the racist, and the NBA players dare to stand up and say, hey, if he's not fired, then we're not playing. Y'all get that? So the premise of this show was, who has more courage? NBA or NFL players? I think I've proven my point. Right now, every NBA player in the league has the phone number of the commissioner. You know how I know it? Because last week, an NBA player, let me see if I can find the story. I'm going to prove it to you. Because Adam Silver knew where his bread was buttered. He knew that he had to do something. He wasn't going to knuckle under. Okay? He wasn't going to knuckle under. Let me see if I can find that story. I'm going to prove to you. So, Adam Silver's phone number last week was accidentally revealed by an NBA player, Michael Porter Jr., last week. Because Adam Silver, when you say you have an open door policy, now obviously with players, 30 teams across the nation, it's tough to get players to get in. But if I can call you and Adam Silver answers, man, that's an open door policy. So Adam Silver was just now getting on the job. This was probably the biggest crisis that he has ever, that we've seen since Malice in the Palace. This was the biggest crisis the NBA had ever leaked, or at least ever experienced, because for the first time there were players who were going to sit down during the playoffs. The jewel of the season, the one thing that everybody looks forward to. The NBA season is 82 seasons, 82 games. So I'll admit, you don't watch every game. You don't. It's just tough. But most people will watch the playoffs, because the playoffs during that time is the only thing that's happening. And here we were. You had players on both the Clippers and the Warriors getting ready to sit down. You get that right. Ain't that something? And Adam Silver negotiated behind the scenes, and Daniel Sterling, not only was he censured, he ended up quitting and selling the team. Now, some would argue that, hey, he still got a windfall for the team. Well, they couldn't take his property. He had to get something for it, but the fact of the matter is that Daniel Sterling was no longer a part of the NBA. Now, there may be other owners that are like that, but the one that we know about, because of the players who decided that if they don't fire Daniel Sterling, then we are not going to play in the playoffs. All of this now, 5 years later, is coming out with this 30 for 30 on ESPN. And what we did know, there's hundreds of tapes of Daniel Sterling being a racist. What was exposed at the time is not even scratching the surface. Hello. So I asked you the question again. Which players have more courage? NBA players or NFL players? I think the evidence is clear. You know, a lot of white folks don't watch the NBA. You know why? And if you listen to their comments, you can hear the disdain, because the players have more control. Yeah, they do. That's why they have more control. And because they understand their worth. Because even though owners are putting up the money, without those players, they have no league. They make no money. The NBA players understand that. That's why their unions are stronger. That's why their contracts are stronger. That's why they get guaranteed money, where NFL players do not. And part of that is because NFL players don't know how to stand together. So if they can't stand together on their money, they sure as hell is not going to stand together on a social issue. And you've seen that. You've seen former NFL players. You saw the idiocy last week. You continue to see it. So I don't feel sorry for NFL players. You get what you deserve. I support the NBA. I support those players who support the community, who believes in standing up. And all you have to do is stand up, brothers. What would happen? Look, 65% of the players in the league are black players. What would happen if you all joined together and stood up? What would happen if you all stood up and took a knee? What would happen if game one, on the first game of the season, that every black NFL player and white ones who believed with their black brothers took a knee to make a statement to not just the NFL, but to the world? But you all have no courage. NBA players do. They've shown us. They've shown us. That's why I support them. 855-525-5683 is the number. I'd like to hear your comments if you'd like to call the show. Let's talk about this. Now, woe be unto me to tell somebody how to live their lives. Look, that's the great thing about America. The great thing about America, that I can come in here and say the things that I say. That's my First Amendment right. Now, I always tell you that if I say something you don't like, I give you an option to call this show. If I say something that I'm wrong about, you certainly can call this show. You certainly can post it on Facebook. I have no problem with that. That's what makes America great. In other words, although I have a First Amendment right, I have to be responsible for what comes out of my mouth. Just like Donald Trump, who's a racist. You have to be responsible for your racism that comes out of your mouth. You, Stephen Ross, who is the owner of the Miami Dolphins, have to be responsible for the racism you support. You can't do it both ways. And any other owner, any other corporation, any other person who is rich, who is supporting racist agendas, have to be responsible for that support. Just because you donate something to the homeless, just because you donate something in the black community, just because you buy computers for a school, that still does not absolve you from your racism. Hey, did Massa feed his slaves? Hell yes, he did. Because if I fed my slaves, then my slaves would work harder for me. So just because you make money and you donate money to black causes, you are still a racist if you still support that agenda. And that's what Stephen Ross is doing for the Miami Dolphins. That's what that's what Jerry Jones is doing for the Miami Dolphins. For the Dallas Cowboys. That's what Bob Kraft is doing for the New England Patriots. You are feeding a racist, which is Donald Trump, and you expect us, those common thinking folks like black people like me, who will not accept that we're wrong. No, brothers, you are wrong. And Kenny Stills has the guts to call you out. And then Brian Flores, a black football coach, the black overseer, decides to whip Kenny Stills. Decides to give him 8 Jay-Z lashes. But see, that would have never happened in the NBA. Because the NBA players, they stand together. Hello? Yeah, NBA players stand together. Hello? So it's the NBA players that have more courage. I implore you to go out and listen to that 30 for 30. Because racism is real in America. Racism is a social construct that infects every aspect of American life. And if we're going to get away from it, we have to be able to recognize it. And just because stupid black people will get on white radio shows and say, no, that's not racist, or stupid black people like Marcellus Wiley will get on a Jason Witten show on Fox News and have the temerity to suggest that because Colin Kaepernick is mixed race and he's dating a woman from Egypt, they don't understand the what did he say, the burden of racism. You know, it just, you know, the more I think about what Marcellus Wiley did, the more ignorant he is, because Nessa, who is Colin Kaepernick's girlfriend, is from Egypt. Damn, Marcellus Wiley, don't you know that the people in Egypt were black until they were invaded by white people and white supremacy? And you say a woman who came from the motherland doesn't understand the depth and scope of the power of racism. And you said that on Fox. Man, you are an idiot, man. You had a Massa moment. You see, a lot of these guys are drunk with television. You know, for a long time, you know, and even now, you see very few black people on television. If not for ESPN, you wouldn't see many at all as it relates to sports. So now all of these guys are trying to get a gig on a sports show. So what better way to get a gig on a sports show like Fox is to be black and be anti-black? Marcellus Wiley. What better way to do that? Jason Whitlock has made a career on Fox News radio stations, and this is the first time that I've mentioned Jason Whitlock on my show that I can remember, because I don't talk about that coon. But Jason Whitlock has made a living on Fox Sports outlets hating black people and doesn't understand his own self-hate. So Marcellus Wiley now says, hey, I want to be on this show. I need to get I want a show. You know, I want to get on a national sports talk show. So, hey, I gotta be racist like Jason Whitlock. Brother, you have no courage. You've went to the sunken place. It's sad. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me if you want to join the show. We're going to go out and take another quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk a little college football. Back in a moment. You're listening to the Weekly Sports Magazine. I'm Dynamic Dave on JoinedRadio.com.
To the black, the Little Rock Central High football Tigers are back. Head football coach Kent Left to lead the Tigers into a promising 2019 football season. Catch all of the great home game action. Join the Tigers for home games against West Memphis, Rogers Heritage, North Little Rock, Bryant, Cabot, and Fort Smith Southside. Former Tiger player David W. Coleman brings you all of the exciting play-by-play analysis. Hell to the old goal, hell this honor. Spread the word about your goods and services during the Little Rock Central Tigers 2019 football season. This is a great opportunity to inform the largest alumni base in the state of Arkansas about your great products. We'll professionally produce your ads or submit your own. You must act quick as a cat because spots are limited. Contact David W. Coleman at 615-554-0568 to support the Tigers. Proceeds to benefit the Little Rock Central High Tigers Athletic Fund.
Mitchell Funeral Home welcomes all of Arkadelphia and Arkansas in Clark County since 1966. At Mitchell Funeral Home, they understand that the funeral is a celebration of life and legacy, so the entire staff takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional services they provide. Cremations, funeral planning, burial policy, life insurance, notary, and monument sales are just a few of the services they offer. Flexible packages are available as well. Mitchell Funeral Home appreciates the trust and confidence placed in them and will continue to enhance their services so as to serve you better. Call now. Get connected. 870-246-2611. That's 870-246-2611. Call, click, or come by. MitchellFuneralServices.com. Don't wait till we're needed. Call us now. Let's walk through this together. 870-246-2611. It's quality you can appreciate and service you can depend on at Mitchell Funeral Home.
Hi, I'm attorney Theodore Thompson from the Thompson Law Firm, and I want to help with your legal matters. Whether it's criminal defense, bankruptcy, personal injury, or family law, I want to help you. I can be reached at 501-503-5095. Don't face your legal issues alone. You need an attorney whose primary objective is to provide you with the best legal representation. Our office address is 415 North McKinley, Suite 710 in Little Rock. I'm attorney Theodore Thompson, and I want to provide you with the best legal representation.
I'm so glad I found a Kick Above. It's like my very own personal training studio. A Kick Above removed the guesswork and intimidation and offered me a very supportive and structured environment specific to my personal goals. Kim Leverett and her certified personal trainers even offered nutritional guidelines for my personal workout. It's about me at a Kick Above. Call 501-868-8850 or go to akickabove.com. Now, what am I wearing tonight? Thanks to a Kick Above, I look marvelous.
Hi, this is Oswald. It really ain't all good. Welfare takes the tank, and then it can't sign, and it can't be seen. The family becomes a crime. The hunt is on, and brother, you're the prey. Serving time in jail, it just ain't the way. I'm living so hard, baby, that my hair's gray. We got to make a change. It's a brand new day. Order, a brand new day. It's a new day.
All right, welcome back to the show. Appreciate everybody joining me this morning. It's the weekly sports magazine right here on joinnetradio.com. We're here every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Also want to remind people of Black Focus Radio. Okay? Black Focus Radio every day, noon to 2 p.m. on joinnetradio.com. Also, if you're a business owner out there, we're about to start broadcasting the Little Rock Central football games. This is a great opportunity for you to become a sponsor of Little Rock Central. Excellent opportunity. You've got to simply call me up at 615-554-0568. Let's support the Tigers. All right? Coming up here in a little bit, I guess at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we've got David Ashley with Real Talk, Real Money. We'll talk to him as well. Our guest artist today is Curtis Mayfield. In the background, we're jamming a New World Order. I hope you enjoy it. You got to go out to the Joynet Radio and download that Joynet Radio app. If you want to know where it is, just go to joynetradio.com and click on your prospective application, whether it's Android or Apple. You can get that done here on joynetradio.com. We'll play a little bit more Curtis Mayfield. I highly recommend that you go and download or go out to YouTube and just Google Curtis Mayfield and click play. Man, you know, I did that one day. I started listening to Curtis Mayfield I want to say about 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I was still jamming Curtis Mayfield all the way Saturday evening. Just jamming. Jam, oh, jam. Let's see a couple other news. We're going to talk a little college football in a moment, but apparently Naomi Osaka returns to number one in the world. U.S. and Australian Open champion Naomi Osaka returned to the world number one spot in tennis in the WTA rankings on Monday. Okay, here Serena Williams is number 8, by the way, and let's see, and Sloane Stephens is number 10. Okay, so yeah, Facebook is fussing at me because I just played some Curtis Mayfield. I'm sorry about that. They may block this video. I do have what is called, okay, let's see what they say. Warner Brothers Music Rights has taken action on your video because it contains music that belongs to them. Okay. Your video matches 37 seconds of music on playing match bar. Okay, all right. So let's see. Your video is partially muted. So they're gonna partially mute the video. Okay. So whatever. Give me a break. I don't care. All right. So anyway, we were talking a little bit about tennis. Will Serena, by the way, win another Grand Slam? That remains to be seen, but I think she will. I think she'll be okay with that. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about college football. College football is going to happen we're going to talk about college football. It begins tonight with Florida and Miami. What a great game. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to pick a game. I will tell you starting next Saturday, and I'm going to post some stuff today and throughout the week about how you can get involved in this contest, okay? So every Saturday, I'm going to pick games. Every Saturday, I'm gonna pick a game from the Power 5 conferences, and I'm gonna pick one other game. Whether it's a Razorback game, let me take that back. I'm gonna pick every game from the Power 5 conferences. I'm gonna pick the Arkansas Razorbacks because I live in Arkansas, and then I'm gonna pick another game outside of the Power 5. Okay. So that'll be 7 games. 5 Power 5 games, 1 Arkansas game, I'll call it the Homer game, and then 1 away game, or non-Power 5. If you beat me, then I'm going to give you whatever we have in our treasure trove. So like, for instance, if we have tickets to the fair that's coming up, which I know we'll get tickets for the fair, I'm going to give you some fair tickets. Or I'm going to give you a Coleman's Dynamic gift box with all my products in it. So I'm going to go out to some vendors and say, hey, look, would you be willing to donate a gift certificate for this contest? And at the end of the year, all of that stuff is going to be in a package and I'm going to give it to you. Okay? Will y'all do that? Y'all interested? So I'm going to pick this game today. I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to have something for you, okay? This just kind of came to me. I should have been working on this, but I've been so busy. All right? We're also proud of the fact that we're going to be broadcasting all of Little Rock Central's football games. This Tuesday, we will be broadcasting the game from War Memorial with Little Rock Central versus West Memphis. I hope everybody come out and see the game. West Memphis, by the way, has been cheating. I'm going to say it again. West Memphis is cheating. Go out and look at the 5 players that transferred from schools in Memphis to West Memphis. And I'm wondering why the Arkansas Athletic Association hasn't done anything about this. How could this be okay? I'm going to reach out to the Arkansas Athletic Association next week. I'm wondering if those 5 players would have moved to Little Rock and played at Little Rock Central, would there have been a difference? I'm just wondering. Because, anyway, we'll talk about that later on. All right, so let's talk about the game tonight. Okay? So this is the first big-time college football game. Miami versus the Florida Hurricane. Check this out. Miami Hurricanes versus the Florida Gators. This is the first big-time football game. We've got other games tonight. Arizona plays Hawaii. Those are the two games, college football games. They're calling this Week 0. That's what they're calling this. So both teams obviously are undefeated. Well, they should be. There's question marks on both teams as it relates to their coaching and their returning starters. Florida Gators are ranked 8th. And the Miami Hurricanes seem to rebuilding. Okay. Florida should win this game, I would think. The winner will surely revel in the spotlight. We know all of that. Let's see here. The Gators certainly think highly of themselves, especially after notching 10 wins under Mullen last year. The Florida Gators have a heck of a defense. They have a lot to prove, but then you go in with Miami. There's questions at quarterback. Miami, Jaron Williams has become the starter. He'll become the 13th different starting quarterback in the last 20 years, and if history is any indicator, he won't put up massive numbers against the Gators. Okay? So when you look at this, I mean, Florida is a 7-point favorite. A 7-point favorite. That seems like a lot in an opening game. This game is either going to be a blowout or it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be. It's not going to come down to. And this is just my opinion. It's not going to come down to a last play. I think it's going to be a blowout. I think Florida covers this 7 points. Okay? You look at it like this. First game of the season, Miami is going to start a freshman quarterback. Florida has a heck of a defense. A lot of starters coming back on that defense. A lot of upperclassmen coming back on that defense. If I'm Florida, if I'm Miami, you starting a rookie or a freshman quarterback, that's field day. At least it is to me. So I would have to, if I'm going to choose this game, I've got to go with Florida. Florida is the number one, is the best defense. Defense wins championships. I'm going to go with Florida. Now let's take a quick look at the top 25. Clemson starts off the first time in its history to ever be ranked number 1. Alabama number 2. Georgia number 3. Oklahoma number 4. By the way, Jalen Hurts has been named as the starting quarterback again in Oklahoma. You know, that same Jalen Hurts who was at Miami, who had a 26-2 starting record, who was jettisoned for Tagliavoa. He's now the starting quarterback, fifth-year senior at Oklahoma. They play Houston game 1. That's a game to watch. Ohio State, LSU, Michigan. I've got some comments about Jim Harbaugh in just a moment. Florida, Notre Dame, and Texas. By the way, let me just say this. I hear a lot of Notre Dame fans talking about what Notre Dame did in the playoffs last year, trying to justify they should have been there. They never should have been in the playoffs in the first place. And then the argument, here's a stupid argument, that Notre Dame was better than Alabama. Huh? Well, Notre Dame played Clemson better than Alabama did. Really? So what you're saying to me, if Notre Dame would have played Alabama, they would have beaten Alabama? Hell no. That's stupid. That's stupid logic. But they've got Notre Dame number 9, Texas number 10, You've got Oregon, Texas A&M, Washington, Utah, and Penn State. Many people are saying Penn State might be a team to watch. That's the next 5, 16 through 20, Penn State, Auburn, UCF, Michigan State, and Wisconsin. And and Iowa. And 21 through 25, you've got Iowa, Syracuse, Washington State, Nebraska, and Stanford. So you've got, 1, 2, 3, 4 SEC schools in the top 10, 5 in the top 12, 6 in the top 20, and that rounds them out. So starting off the league, you've got 6 schools that are in the top 10, in the top 25. Not bad. Now, let's see how many schools from the Big Ten are in the top 25. Let's see. You've got Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State. So you've got 4. Wisconsin, 5. Iowa, 6. So you've got 6 Big Ten schools. Now, why am I bringing this thing up about the Big Ten? So, Jim Harbaugh, he has a hard-on for the SEC. I'm just, excuse my vernacular, but he clearly does. So if you haven't heard, last week, apparently, in a book, Jim Harbaugh suggests that the SEC are cheaters. Here's what he says. This is from Bleacher Report. Okay? He suggests that, Jim Arnold of Forbes reviewed John U. Bacon's book, Overtime, Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Rivalry at the Crossroads of College Football, and revealed that the Michigan coach said it's hard to beat cheaters when discussing recruiting against SEC schools. Okay? Harbaugh wasn't only associated with Michigan, who believes the school is working at a disadvantage when it comes to recruiting. Name other schools that competes with the Blue Bloods athletically. We're talking Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, while competing with the Blue Bloods academically. Stanford, Northwestern, Princeton. Michigan Director of Recruiting Matt Dudek said, per Arnold, most of the players we recruit are good enough to play for Alabama or Clemson or smart enough to play in Ivy League schools. If you don't win in the classroom on Monday, you won't be here for many Saturdays. Now, didn't Shane Patterson play for Mississippi? Didn't he? Isn't Mississippi in the SEC? The University of Mississippi? So what you're saying is that Shane Patterson wasn't in the SEC? So Jim Harbaugh is simply saying is, oh, I can't win against those teams because they cheating. No, they got the dumb players. Well, how is it that Stanford is always winning? And by the way, if all of those players were Ivy League players, why would they go to Michigan over an Ivy League school? Let me just say this: Michigan, Harvard, Brown. Hello. So to use that argument is a bunch of crap. Look. So you're saying that Ohio State is cheating too? That's why you can't beat Ohio State? So the reason you can't beat Ohio State, Jim Harbaugh, is because they're cheating. Where's your proof? Where's your proof? I'm just saying. Ohio State was able to do that while finishing in the middle of the 20th in the country in money spent. Okay? Let me just throw this out here because this is important. How much how much money does it cost to land a top college football prospect? How much money? Here's the Power 5 spending rankings among schools. Here it is. 4 and 5 star recruits. The number one school is Georgia. The football recruiting expense for fiscal year 18 was $2.6 million. Okay? They got the first recruiting class in 2018 and the second ranking recruiting class in 2019. Alabama, $2.3 million. They had the fifth ranked recruiting class in 18 and the first in 2019. Texas, $1.8 million, third and third. Clemson, $1.7 million, seventh and 10th. Texas A&M, $1.7 million, 17th and 4th. Florida State, 11th and 19th. Michigan, so Michigan spends the 7th most money on recruiting, $1.3 million. And their recruiting for 2018 was 22nd, and for 2019 was 8th. Now, LSU was 9th. Florida was 12th. Auburn was 14th. South Carolina was 21st. But just looky here. There's Ohio State. Ohio State's recruiting budget is just barely under $1 million. That's 20th nationally in the schools that were ranked here. 20th. Their recruiting class was 2nd in 2018 and 14th in 2019. They had 35 4- and 5-star players. But they kick y'all's butt every year. Michigan. So what you're saying is that Ohio State is cheating. Jim Harbaugh, he joins those who are a piece of crap. Jim Harbaugh is basically whining and complaining that he can't win in Michigan because of recruiting. Because everybody else cheats and he does it the right way. You know, I've just started disliking Michigan even more. You know, I still like Michigan, but you know what? I don't like Jim Harbaugh. So I'm hoping that you all lose every game this year. I'm hoping you look. Let me tell you something. If you don't beat Ohio State this year, when they've got a brand new head football coach, then you need to go sit yourself down somewhere, Jim Harbaugh. That's just the bottom line on that. Ohio State has a 20th ranked. They spend the 20th most money on recruiting. Yet they beat Michigan every year. Ohio State is talked about in the college playoffs just about every year. But Michigan, who spends number 7 on this list, doesn't. And you're complaining why kids... Look, let me tell you something. Do I want to go play in the cold weather? Nowadays, you know, part of the reason that USC and UCLA is not winning anymore is because that lure that everybody wanted to go and do back in the day, it doesn't exist anymore. You can stay close to home and play and be successful. So going to a place like Michigan where there ain't nothing in Ann Arbor. If I'm a kid, if I have an opportunity to play in the best conference, I'm going to play in the best conference. That's just the bottom line on that. You know, if you're saying that LSU is cheating, LSU spends the 9th most money, $1.2 million every year. They got the 15th ranked recruiting class in 2018 and the 5th ranked in 2019. Okay? LSU only got 4 5-star players. And I would argue that a lot of them came from the area. If LSU was cheating, why hadn't LSU been able to put a quarterback, a top-ranked quarterback out? Can you answer that question for me, Jim Harbaugh? You know, sometimes when you say things, it's like these old folks you say, sometimes you let your mouth overload your butt. And that's what Jim Harbaugh it's almost like he has diarrhea of the mouth. Maybe he's angry because nobody recruited him to the SEC. Maybe he's upset because he doesn't coach in the SEC and he wants to coach in the SEC. How much money does Jim Harbaugh make? I'm wondering. Let me just see. Let's see what Jim Harbaugh's salary is. Jim Harbaugh makes $7 million a year. Wow. Well, I would say, Jim, why don't you give up some of that salary and maybe you could move Michigan, since you love Michigan so much, maybe you can move Michigan. So why don't you donate, let's say y'all are already spending $1.3 million. So Jim, why don't you donate $5 million of your salary? You'll still get $2 million plus all those extra perks you get. But if you donated $5 million to the recruiting expenses of Michigan, that would put you all squarely at $2 million annually. That would put you number 3. So the only other schools that are beating you is Georgia and Alabama. So you would be right square at $2 million. But you're not going to do that, are you, Jim? No, you're not, because you're a hypocrite. You're jealous of the SEC. Aren't you, Jim? That's what it really boils down to. You know, when you first got that job, you tried to have practices in SEC states. Remember that, Jim? SEC players, SEC teams didn't try to go to Michigan and have practices. They don't need Michigan players. What you should argue is that you have a geography problem. You don't have a money problem, Jim. Michigan, how many people? Let's see. That stadium holds over 100,000 people. It's one of the few stadiums that do. Maybe you should go to your brass and say, hey, we need y'all to spend more money on recruiting. You know what I'm saying, Jim? But I'm tired of your diarrhea at the mouth about the SEC. It's old. It's just old. The bottom line is that if I was a player and I was running my mouth the way you as a coach are right now, you would tell that player, boy, shut up and go play. Prove it on the field. Don't listen to all that outside noise. That's what you would tell that player. So Jim Harbaugh, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to tell you the same thing. Why don't you just shut up and go win some football games? And all that other stuff will work its way out. Hope you enjoyed the show. Yeah, we've proven today beyond a shadow of a doubt that the NBA players have more courage than NFL players. Hope you liked that show, that part of the show. Don't forget to join us on Monday on Black Focus Radio, noon to 2 p.m. right here on Joynet Radio. We've got to get out of here. Coming up here in just a few minutes, Real Talk, Real Money with David Ashley. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Weekly Sports Page with Dynamic David Coleman.
On Dice Right, ice cream, alert, 654 Jose.
Saturday morning from 9 to 10.
Rob Ridgway, 96 double! 96 double! What a player, what a player!
Until next week.
You got it. Amen.
Brought to you by
The Joy Network. This is something. Can I talk to you for a moment? How many people have come up to you and said, hey, I didn't know you had a business?